In this video, I'm going to take you on a tour of Zotero. Zotero is a citation management system that makes it really easy to create bibliographies. You want to start out by downloading the Zotero Desktop application and the browser plugin. Even though there's also a web library, it's really useful to have both. You can actually see I have my browser extension installed up at the top. Once you've installed those, you'll want to log in, or if you haven't had an account, you'll register for one here. I'll just log into my account. And you'll be able to see my very full library. And these are all the citations in my library. You can see I've organized them into folders here on the left. And in each one there's a number of citations. I'm also part of a number of groups. Those are folders that are shared with other people. And here you can see on the right side what an actual citation, the information that goes along with the citation. I can just click that Create a Bibliography button and quickly, in any citation style I like, just make a formatted citation on the fly. Copy that to my clipboard. You can also add notes, you can add tags, you can attach files to it. In this case I often attach the actual document itself to the record, so I can go back to it when I need to. This is what the Zotero Desktop application looks like. Up here, this is the sync. So you'll want to, the first time you open this, you'll want to sync it. You can also go to Edit, Preferences, and there's a Sync tab here. If you're having any trouble with that, I'd recommend opening up that panel to make sure you're signed in and you can sync properly. This is where you can make sure on the Site panel to have the word processor installed, and if you have a problem, reinstall it right there. There are a number of plugins for Microsoft Word, for OpenOffice, for Google Docs. I use Microsoft Word. So this is where Zotero is really powerful. You can see that there's now a Zotero plugin on the ribbon of Microsoft Word. I can start typing my paper, and I'll just insert one of my an in-text citation from my Zotero library. So there's one author. I'll press Enter, and it's already put the in-text citation there for me. I'll do another one. And there's another one. Press Enter again. Now all I have to do is click this Add Edit Bibliography, and it's already created bibliography. So you can see how powerful that would be if you have a whole bibliography to do your paper. But notice here that I actually don't have a complete bibliography. The date is not present for one of my citations, so I can quickly go into my library and try to find that. I'm searching first in my library, and that citation is not showing up, so I'll look in my little group libraries to see if I can find it there. And yes, there it is, and you can see there's no date. I did look it up. It's 2008. So I'll refresh here. I'll sync, and I'll go back to Word and refresh, and you can see it's now entered the date both in my in-text citation and in the bibliography. So that way you can feel confident that you can make sure everything is up to date. Okay, so you're probably wondering, how do I actually add anything to my bibliography? How do I start to add things to Zotero? So I just did a search in Summon, the library's discovery tool. Let's enter a sample book. So here's one way to do it. I can right-click on a DOI that I find and save to Zotero because I have this browser plugin installed. So it gives me the option, where do I want to save it, in what folder? In this case, I'll probably put this in my textbook affordability folder. Library Textbook Initiatives. I can add some tags right here if I want to. And hit done. Now if I go back to my Zotero library, I should see that appear. I may need to refresh, or if I'm in my Zotero Desktop, I would sync again and see if I can show up. It'll show up. And what was that called again? Textbook broke. Let's refresh. And make sure you're in the right folder, and there it is. Textbook broke, and it's entered automatically this bibliographic information, so I don't have to manually do it. It seems to have entered the DOI. I've got my tag that I added. It has some attachments that it put in here automatically, but I'll just want to make sure that I have the full text if possible. So I'll show you what it would be like if you wanted to add a file. So I'm going to go ahead and get to the PDF itself so I can attach it manually. Let's rename it something that we'll be able to discover. And we'll go back to my Zotero library, add the file, navigate to it, and here we go, it's now attached. Now what would that look like here in my Zotero Desktop app? Now you're not seeing the attachment there, it's actually these little blue dots on the right side of each of these entries. So if you double click on that little blue dot, you should be able to pull up the attached file, and there it is. So adding with a right click of a DOI is not the only way that you can add things to your Zotero library. There are a number of ways. I can also copy down the identifier. In this case, I actually see that it has a proxy prepend for Drexel. I probably don't want to use that. I want to find the actual DOI. So I'll go into the PDF and just get the DOI. And I'll copy down the DOI link. Go back to my library and then use this little icon here, add by identifier. I'll copy down the DOI. Again, just make sure you want just the DOI, so get rid of this extraneous stuff. And if it exits, it's just a pain. There we go. Alright, I hit enter. So again, we'll see that title was called Will Library eBooks Help Solve the Textbook Affordability? So there it is. It's entered the information. So using that identifier option is another way to add material to your Zotero library. A third way is if you're in a database. Zotero recognizes that you're in a database oftentimes, and it will actually show you a number of entries that you can add in. You can add in more than one at a time if you want to. So I'm just doing a sample search in a library database. And if I hover up to here, you can see the icon's changed a little bit. It recognizes there are multiple entries you can have. So let's try this one, Textbook Affordability, the library's role. This gives you all the results on this page. I could click more than one if I want to. I'll just choose that one, Textbook Affordability, the library's role. And I'll add that again to the Textbook Initiatives folder. And it should now show up in my library. And there it is. It also pulled the PDF for me, which is nice. Finally, you can also add just regular web pages this way using this browser extension. So let's just get a sample web page that we can include, and using that browser extension at the top. This is a Chrome browser extension, by the way. But by using this, I can now just pull up a web page into my bibliography, into my library that can be used later in a bibliography. All right, and I put that in the Learning Sciences folder just as a sample. It's not showing up yet, so you may need to refresh it. It may take a moment. And there it is. It's showing up right there. And it's pulled a lot of information for it. So there you go. Those are a number of ways you can add material to your Zotero library, create a bibliography in Word.